All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our November 16th webinar, where we're going to talk about some very cool incentives that City Light has to offer right now. And we have Customer Energy Solutions staff to tell you about it, the experts themselves. Um, Before we get into it, let me give you sort of the lay of the land here with GoToWebinar. If you haven't taken a webinar with Lighting Design Lab, you're all going to be on mute for this hour, but there is a questions box that you can type into at any time, ask any question anytime. And this webinar is being recorded starting right now. So we'll put the recording up on our website, lightingdesignlab.com, within about a week, along with the slides. And then when we're done, there's a little after class survey that you can give us some feedback. And next slide, Armando. We have 3 webinars coming up, 2 left for this year. Eric Strandberg, who you would probably know and love, has been at the lab for ever and ever, is teaching lighting retrofits and audits, and some LLC information in there too on November 30th. And then we're going to have a CPACER financing webinar, which we have not offered before, to let you all know about that financing to help with some of these expensive projects. And then we are going to, starting off in the new year, do some residential HVAC load calculations, manual J, manual S, which are very important when you're sizing these heat pumps. And those links you can't click on right now, but when you get the slides, you can visit our website, subscribe to our newsletter, and get all of the upcoming very exciting events. And with that, I will hand it over to Armando, who you may remember from the lab, but now he works in a different department for City Light. And his teammates, who you might also know, Len Canapel and Ted Brown, are here to talk to you today. So take it away, Armando.
Thank you very much, Katie. Yeah, it feels very different to be invited to speak as a guest, but yeah, can't keep me away. Still having the Lighting Design Lab spirit strong, and enjoy the fact that we can work together and have these webinars. All right, well, today we're going to talk to you a little bit about earlier this summer when our incentives increased. Len's going to give us the details on what it's going to look like in just the new coming incentive rates for various products and systems, as well as Ted and Len are going to discuss 2 new supplemental incentives that can help with our efficiency projects. I'm going to give you a brief update to some new outreach and marketing efforts that we're doing and allow some time at the end for questions. So for right now, Len, take it away.
Thank you, Armando, and good morning, everybody. My name is Len Canapel. I'm an energy and management analyst for Seattle City Light, and I'm here to talk about incentives. This is going to be a fairly short presentation talking, first of all, about the changes that Armando referred to on commercial retrofit lighting, as well as HVAC. And then on the second part of this about the Project Development Incentive, or PDI. So we're going to throw a lot of acronyms at you today, but there will be no test after that. So anyway, this is going to be fun stuff, because who's going to complain about incentives and money coming your way? And that's what some of this presentation is about today. So I think this is good stuff. So let's talk first of all about commercial retrofit incentives. And again, as Katie said, if you have any questions, feel free to fire them in the chat. Armando's going to be monitoring that. And then I'll stop after both sections to see if there's any questions. You can go off mute. So starting July 1st of this year, 2023, what you see in red was our old incentives that got changed over to the new incentives. So that's new and retrofit fixtures were 15 cents a kilowatt hour, now 25 cents a kilowatt hour. So that includes the example fixtures that you see there, like downlights, troffers, wall packs, things like that. And again, that's also integrated retrofit kits. To distinguish that from the component retrofit kits, which are usually the strips and things like that with different component parts, those went from 10 cents a kilowatt hour to 17 cents a kilowatt hour. So notice the asterisks there. Newer retrofit fixtures must be DLC listed. Downlights, since there is no DLC listing for them, they need to be Energy Star listed. And we've also got standard lighting controls. That again was 15 cents a kilowatt hour, now 25 cents a kilowatt hour. Typically occupancy and daylight controls. And then the big enchilada network lighting controls, that was 15 cents a kilowatt hour, also now has gone up to 25 cents a kilowatt hour. And remember, you had that $75 fixture bonus that started up, increased from $50 to $75 this year. That's unchanged. But what has changed is the fixture and control savings for that. And that triple asterisk at the bottom for those network lighting control systems, remember they need to be on the DLCs, network lighting control QPL. All right, next slide, please. So if you're looking for where this information is, we actually have this on our commercial retrofit lighting sheet. This is on our website. There's a link to it at the very bottom of the slide that we will share as well. But the things that are bolded there in red, in the red boxes, those are really the key things. So again, the LED fixtures at the top, the other retrofit kits, which are the component retrofit kits, and then the standard controls. Those are the three big ones that have changed. The only real noteworthy HVAC item that has changed, we went from $300 per unit to $1,000 per unit for package terminal heat pumps. These are things usually used in hotels, motels, residential care facilities, things like that. But that's keeping up with BPA incentives, and we wanted to make sure we were keeping current. So that's part of the reason why this actually was increased. And Armando, if you have a chance to show that that link to that, or we can just send the link out to that incentive sheet, it's going to look just like the screenshot you see here. So either way is good.
Len, happy to show. If you click on that link, it'll just take us to the PDF. Do have a question if you can speak to it.
Sure.
That we have here, but yeah, again, it's a one-pager, front and back, with various building types and the measures and the current levels. Where it says at the very bottom of the retrofit lighting section, it says LLLC, where we see the incentive per fixture, but on the right-hand side on the measure notes, it says, in addition to the dollars per kilowatt hour incentive for fixture efficiency and controls. Can you explain that one a little bit?
Yeah, so that's that 25 cents per kilowatt hour savings. So for when you get a network lighting control fixture, you get an automatic $75 per fixture bonus. Then in addition to that, we also calculate out the fixture savings and control savings at 25 cents a kilowatt hour. So that's a good point. That probably ought to be clarified on that right-hand column, just to make sure that there's no ambiguity with that. Did that answer the question?
Sorry, Len, and yes, thank you very much.
Okay, no troubles. So that's really about it when it comes to the commercial retrofit incentive list. Those of you on the LDL newsletter should have gotten this information when we actually made this change July 1st. This is just a reminder for those that got that, or for those that weren't even aware of these changes. So definitely let us know about those if you have projects that can take up on those incentives. Any questions or comments that have emerged so far? This is a good time to talk, and if not, we'll just motor into the next part.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that's part one. Part two, we have a new project development incentive, PDI. This is something that we got developed over the last few months, and it became effective September 1st. So what is a PDI? So again, this is just what we call a supplemental incentive. This is to offset those administrative costs associated with an SEL incentive project. So we realize there's a lot of paperwork for the contract as well as the payment phases. So this is a thank you and a tip of the hat. to the person that actually did that work to submit all that information. So this is keeping up with what other utilities are doing, and we think it's a great way to help bring business and contractors into our service territory. So right now we only have 3 programs that this applies to: commercial retrofit, commercial and industrial retrofit lighting, non-lighting, and then multifamily weatherization retrofit. So again, this PDI only applies to those 3 programs. So the paperwork that has to be submitted, it's the same thing that you contractors and so forth have already been submitting to us. For the contract phase, there's usually the online program application or the workbook, the cut sheets, also known as technical specification sheets, and any other specifications that go with the project. Payment phase, same kind of thing, the as-built workbook, any technical sheets for anything that may have changed between the contract and the payment, final invoice, all these other things. So the PDI, and I probably should have made this a little more clear, this is actually a really good thing. So for anything contracted September 1st to December 15th, that's going to be 5 cents a kilowatt hour is what we pay for the supplemental incentive. After that, that's December 16th of this year to June 15th, 2024, that drops in half to 2.5 cents a kilowatt hour. So we fully realize today is the Ides of November. So you have November 15th, you have 1 month to try to get these things in if you're trying to get that maximum PDI. But after June 15th, 2024, up for reevaluation. We don't know yet what that PDI is going to be, and that's why it's not listed right here. So let's go ahead and show an example. We can talk about this thing. It's going to make a lot more sense when you see an example. So most of this work is being done by us. You guys submitting things don't have to worry about what this particular page is. It's just an example here. Project name, of course, is Blingo Blammo Whammo Retrofit Lighting. In this particular project, if you look about 2/3 of the way down, you see the total project energy savings. That's in gray, and that's that 200,000 kilowatt hours. Thank you, Armando, for highlighting that. So at 5 cents a kilowatt hour for a project that's completed by December 15th of this year, that incentive is PDI is going to be $10,000. Okay. For anything after that, December 16th to June 15th, now again, that PDI drops in half to 5,000, and that's the one in yellow that you see. So this is information that we will send out to you. This has to be signed by the customer or authorized signatory. That authorized signatory has the discretion of where this PDI gets directed, whether that's to the customer or to the contractor. Okay, next slide, please. So this is just a little recap of what the things that we already talked about, but it's important to get some of the specifics here. So you have the regular project incentive that we have for the project, plus the PDI. So when you put these things together here, that you now can exceed that 70% project cost cap. That usually applies just to the project incentive. Now we're saying with the project incentive plus the PDI, you can exceed that 70%, but you cannot exceed 100% of project costs with that, with the combination of the project incentive and the PDI. And as mentioned, the PDI can be directed to the customer or contractor at the discretion of the authorized signatory, which is the customer. And again, this applies to projects contracted after September 1st of this year. Again, like all things, you're going to forget a lot of what I just spoke about. There's a link on that lower right for the PDI incentive and how you can get more information on that. If all else fails, you can always contact the energy advisors. They've got good and quick information on all this. Okay, before I move on to the next section, any questions?
Yes, Len, we do have a question. See if we can do some clarifications. I'm actually
Sure.
going to back one slide to the dates here.
Okay.
We have someone asking if the PDI dates that those apply for payment should be for contracting, which is getting a participation agreement, or for completion.
Okay, so good point. So this whole thing is for anything that's contracted after September 1st. So the first one for that 5 cents a kilowatt hour, you have to be contracted after September 1st. You have to have all your paperwork submitted for both the contract and the payment by December 15th to receive that 5 cents a kilowatt hour. If the project is contracted after September 1st, but you don't get those things in until December 16th or later, now it drops down to that 2.5 cents a kilowatt hour. So again, all the paperwork, both contract and payment, need to be in by those particular dates.
Thank you, Len.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if that wraps it up, I am now going to pass this on to Ted Brown, who's going to talk about the Energy Project Manager. It's another supplemental incentive. So it's like Christmas every day out here. Take it away, Ted.
Thank you very much. And I'm Ted Brown. I'm one of the Energy Management Analyst Supervisors at City Light. And so I supervise one of our teams of EMAs that works with customers and contractors on projects. The Energy Project Manager incentive is one that, again, we just adopted for commercial customers on September 1st. It's been available for our industrial customers for about a year now. It's a program that was established and put together by the Bonneville Power Administration. We sort of pass it through to customers. And what it is, again, sort of keeping with that theme of, in the past, we often would say, or you'd hear people say, oh, you should go get a utility incentive. It's free money. Well, it's not really free money. It takes some work to get it. And we recognize that, the overhead and the time that it takes a customer and their contractor to develop a project should be compensated for, and it's an important part of helping that business case. So the incentive funding is for supporting the development and the implementation of energy efficiency projects. And so the Energy Project Manager is actually a person, can be an organization's employee or a contractor, and it's an individual that's designated to help put those projects together. This is not somebody who's fully dedicated to energy project work. In fact, most people are individuals that are set up as energy project managers, at least for our industrial customers. They're a plant manager, they're a project engineer, they're working on a lot of things in addition to energy efficiency projects, but it helps to build the case for them to develop projects if you can show that you're actually getting some compensation for those efforts. The program guidelines are developed and established, I said, by Bonneville Power Administration. So we kind of follow their rules, and we got a couple examples of how that works. And the EPM can just help offset those costs. The typical incentive and the way it works, it's an additional 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour in addition to the City Light, the base incentive that you would get. And for most projects, that typically is in the range of 17 cents a kilowatt hour to 27 cents per kilowatt hour. And that incentive can provide up to $150,000 of additional incentive funding over a 2-year period. Next slide. So the Energy Project Manager, it's available to all of our participants in commercial and industrial retrofit programs, so lighting and non-lighting projects, our existing building commissioning program, or our deep retrofit pay for performance. The participation requirements are pretty straightforward. You designate an individual as an Energy Project Manager. You develop a high-level, comprehensive energy project plan, and I have an example of what that is coming up. And the projects must be estimated to save a minimum of 200,000 kilowatt hours over the 2-year period. So it's not a real high bar for entry. One of the projects has to be a non-lighting project. So HVAC upgrades, VFDs on fans, pumps, etc. Next slide. Okay, and so here's an example of the comprehensive plan template that we have to submit to BPA to enroll a customer in this program. It's pretty high level. It's, here's a rough idea of the projects that you're planning to pursue over the next couple of years and what you think the potential energy savings for those are and when you think those are going to be completed. And so that's it. It's not, you don't have to do an ASHRAE level 2 audit. You don't have to do really detailed thing, but you do have to have some plan in place of this is what we're going to pursue. Who's your energy project manager going to be? Next slide.
Ted, have a couple of
Yes.
questions. If you can address them a little bit. And I'm going to
Sure.
go back a slide here on the requirements. First question is we have two. Can the EPM be an employee of the contractor performing the work, or must it be an owner employee or owner's representative?
It can be a contractor. So it can be if you've got a building contractor or an ESCO that's doing work on your building on your behalf, then that one of their employees can be the energy project manager. They should have some continuity, so they're not, working on, say, a lighting project and then they go away. It should be somebody that you've got is helping to oversee, a cohort of projects most typically.
And I do see that the 2-year enrollment process. So hey, you said they're not going away after a project.
Right. They can change. That mean that energy project manager can change over the 2-year period if your facility engineer or your ESCO, the contractor that you're working with who's designated as your EPM switches to another facility, takes another job, then yeah, you can certainly have a different person as that EPM. You just have to update, our EPM was John, now it's Jill.
Is it for both? We see mainly the retrofit projects here, but can EPM apply to new construction?
I don't think so. The BPA requirements are really focused around retrofits. Our new construction program isn't really, we don't provide, and one thing that, there's not an incentive for the EPM just for being the EPM. The incentive, and we've got an example of this, is an additional incentive that's paid out as you complete projects. So I don't, and the way our new construction programs are going to transition in the next year or so, it's moving more to what's called early design assistance. Something take a look at an individual proposal for sure, but I don't believe that qualifies.
No, thank you. One last one, and I'll keep us moving on. Ted, can one organization have multiple energy project managers?
Yes, and we've got some flexibility. It depends a little bit on how your organization is set up, and if you have multiple facilities, then maybe you have an energy manager for each individual facility. However, again, the incentive is tied to completion of retrofit projects, and so there isn't an incentive for actually hiring an EPM. You get an additional incentive for the work that gets done that the EPM is managing. All right, so I think next slide. And so here's an example of kind of how that EPM incentive works. So for example, let's pretend we have a commercial office building downtown. They've got a few things in progress. They've got HVAC upgrades that are in progress. They're expected to save 150,000 kilowatt hours. The project incentive that you would get from City Light for that is 34,500. For saving that 150,000 kilowatt hours, the energy project manager incentive would be 2.5 cents times that 150,000 kilowatt hours, so 37.50. So you've got a project, and you can already have projects in progress out towards this energy project manager incentive, but something that was already completed wouldn't qualify. So here, for example, they're also looking at a LED lighting upgrade for 2024. It's estimated to save 200,000 kilowatt hours, and that project, you would get about a $50,000 incentive from City Light. EPM supplemental incentive on that would be 5,000. So over these sort of 3 typical projects that you might see in an office building, once those are all completed, then the utility project incentive would be 111,000, and then the energy project manager incentive is about 11,000. So it's roughly a 10% additional incentive that you would get for designating a person to be your energy project manager. If you had multiple facilities, you say you've got you're a commercial real estate building operator, you've got a couple different buildings, you can have different people be your EPM, but the bonus is based on actual completion of projects. And that comprehensive plan that we talked about it's a living document. So if a project that you had planned doesn't happen, then that gets just taken off the plan. There's no penalty for that. If you've got projects that weren't on the original plan that come into play, then those can be added onto the plan, and just anything that gets completed over that 2-year period qualifies for the 2.5 cents supplemental bonus, or not supplemental incentive. So
no, thank you very much for that one, Ted. I do have one quick question. Do HVAC midstream projects, product and equipment count towards that 20,000 kilowatt hour savings per year?
they would. We would just have to be able to track it. We would have to know which facility was participating, and you have to, and it should show up on your plan. It would just show that, you know, we're replacing a package rooftop unit and we'll receive an incentive through the distributor, which is what our midstream program is. And we would just track what those kilowatt hours are because we are receiving, you know, our staff would have to go looking for the project to make sure we knew what the kilowatt hour savings were, but we can certainly add that into the incentive, and it would be part of your comprehensive plan.
No, thank you for the clarification. And we have a comment, not a question, and I think you addressed it in your previous comments, but I'll repeat it again. The savings qualify from a portfolio of buildings. It could be, you know, campus wide, or as an organization owns various properties. The aggregate will add towards that 200 kilowatt hour a year total plus. Repeating.
Yes, as long as the facilities are served by City Light Electric, those would qualify. If you had a building in Seattle and one, say, in Snohomish PUD, then you would have to sign up the EPM for that particular building in Snohomish. And I think they are offering the Energy Project Manager, but the program is is underwritten and organized by Bonneville Power Administration. So we're just essentially offering a program that they've designed and developed, and they actually reimburse us as part of our energy efficiency funding that we get from BPA for participants in this program.
Thank you very much, Ted.
Next slide, I think. So one of the last things I've got is just sort of the enrollment process of, if you're interested in this, how do you get on board? Contact a City Light Energy Management Analyst or our Energy Advisor if you haven't been working with an EMA recently. You'll want to identify who the person's going to be designated as your EPM, kind of develop that initial comprehensive plan template. We can get that over to you. There's also a link to it on our website. The EMA is going to submit that application to Bonneville Power Administration. They actually do a quick review of the comprehensive plan. It's not very detailed or in depth. They just want to make sure that the projects sort of meet their specifications and aren't already completed. Once you're approved by BPA, then we have an enrollment form for you to sign off on, and then any projects you complete over that timeline, you know, you get the City Light incentive as well as the additional BPA EPM incentive when the project completes. And again, that's about another 10% on top of the regular City Light incentive. And that is kind of how that works. I know it's kind of a quick overview. And again, here's sort of a, you know, an overview of the new incentives that we've developed. So we've got our new incentive rates for C&I lighting, as well as a couple of increases to some package terminal heat pump measures. And those are, again, for any project that has a participation agreement signed after July 1st, so in full effect right now. The project development incentive that Len covered, again, for lighting, non-lighting, and multifamily weatherization. And that's, you know, at this point for most projects, that would be the 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour to get those projects completed by next June. For anything that has a participation agreement signed after September 1st. And then the Energy Project Manager, so for our pay for performance, existing building commissioning, C&I lighting, C&I non-lighting, and industrial programs. And anything to be eligible for that, it's part of that BPA approved comprehensive plan, and a minimum of 200,000 kilowatt hours of planned projects. And if that doesn't come to fruition, you know, if you've planned out 250,000 kilowatt hours of projects and only 150,000 actually gets completed, you're not kicked out of the program. You just, you know, the BPA wants to see that we've got organizations that have some significant or some decent plans towards energy savings that are part of this program. And again, those are any projects that are assigned participation agreement after September 1st. And that's kind of the quick overview of the additional incentives we've got. But in total, with EPM and the project development incentive, as well as the lighting incentives, there's typically a anywhere from 20 to 30% increase in incentives that are available to customers. And with that, I'll hand it back to Armando.
No, thank you very much, Ted. That was a lot of good information and very well explained. We have a couple of we do have a couple of comments that seem that they're questions, Ted, if you would like to address them. But one here mentions, Macy-Ma, that the EPM does not need to be specifically or strictly an energy professional. And I know that BPA is designing that program. Is that more to say, saying anyone designated by the organization that's in charge of energy projects would qualify?
Correct. Yeah. They leave it somewhat vague, but they say, a qualified person, but basically whoever is in charge of getting those projects done. And oftentimes that's a facility manager. It can be an energy manager. It could be a facility engineer. It could be somebody in your project management group. If you have a group that does project management, if you've got a large organization that's doing capital upgrades for buildings, for a campus. So that's, basically they're just looking for someone who's dedicated to really trying to make these projects happen.
No, I like that it's a bit more inclusive on the role. Last thing that I see here, is there a specific level of kilowatt hour savings estimate needed for that initial qualification, or it's essentially, hey, you have an estimate that will be around the 200,000, or is that 200,000 and above, and that will qualify?
It's definitely 200,000 and above. So that if you've turned in a plan that said we're only going to save 175,000, they would probably turn it down or say, hey, do you have other projects that you're considering that might bring that up over 200,000? But if you've got a large enough facility to have people really dedicated to projects, it's not that difficult to come up with the 200,000 kilowatt hours. But it's not meant for, definitely not meant for a 20,000 square foot building. It's for medium to large customers that have significant energy usage or electric usage.
No, Ted, Doe, thank you very much. Both Len and Ted on discussing some of the incentive details. We will have a good amount of time at the end. So if that's any more questions on anything that we're discussing today, please write them in chat and we'll address them as we can. With these three good incentive updates that we want to provide, I wanted to also tease a little bit of the efforts that we're undertaking to have a more intentional support to the energy projects in our region. Wanted to call out, we are still feeling, if you look at the left-hand side, a little bit of the effect of the pandemic on our construction processes, where there is less appetite for projects, be it for inflation, be it for supply chain difficulties, buildings being less occupied. And on the other side, we do see a lot of regulations and requirements to reduce emissions, to electrify, and fight the effects of climate change, doing our part. So at the end of the day, we understand that it's there are needs, there are energy transition requirements, and it's a tougher market in the economic side here. And what ultimately, City Light's doing a lot of good internal work to position ourselves to better support the market in the region. Primarily, we want to intentionally re-engage with both customers, end users, building owners and their reps, as well as trade allies, your contractors, designers, architects, engineers. We want to position ourselves to be more proactive in our communications, work with you on a two-way communication platform, and ultimately be a one-stop shop energy concierge to support organizations' energy transition goals, opportunities, and help with any obstacles. Can envision a future that working with City Light can can help identify stackable funding from our program incentives to federal, city, state funding opportunities available. At the end of the day, we want to ensure that these projects can be viable and happen. So working with us to the level that we can support, one way that we want to do our part. Just saying, we are here to help. Reach out as you go through your own energy transitions, energy efforts, see if we can collaborate on making these projects happen. Showcasing a little bit of a couple of efforts that our customer energy solutions team is doing to re-engage customers in our market. We've identified our top 500 accounts by consumption and are reaching out to them to intentionally, practically reestablish a relationship, knowing that, hey, are you prepared or setting yourself up to meeting your building performance standard? Are we ensuring that we're going to look at the emission reduction requirements for your space, your building? Can we help meet new energy code requirements if you have any major renovations or new construction that you're looking at? And also, we are doing a campaign supported by AESC, reaching out to various of our managed accounts that have building management systems. We're offering a free review. Essentially, what we really do want to do is reestablish these relationships with our customers and support their energy transition goals. We're also working with ICF, doing a little bit of a collateral update and help have the most up-to-date information about our programs and how we can help these energy transitions. Lastly, wanted to showcase we are forming a Trade Ally engagement program. Some of you may have received a survey by NEEC or through the Smart Building Center. I believe they are now named the Building Potential, and that sounds great. But we are forming a Trade Ally engagement program where we want to enable two-way communications between our trade allies in the region and ourselves, better serve and better support this project from happening. So if you have seen some of these efforts, you've been communicated, great. If you haven't and you want to work with us, please reach out. So with all that being said, I wanted to thank you guys for being here. Know that we wanted to allow ample time for questions or wanted to show this information. So if there are any, please write them in the chat. Happy to address. As Katie mentioned, the recording of how we explained the various incentives and the handouts will be available after the webinar. Do we see any questions? Very, very great question by Monica Guevara here, saying, are you working to include minority and women-owned businesses in the Trade Ally outreach? That is a resounding yes. We've identified the WIMBY programs that are state certified, as well as the DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprises, to be what we want to call priority contractors that we are going to be doing dedicated outreach to. So yes, resounding yes, and appreciate the question. Another question around, are we going to be doing specific marketing to small and medium businesses? We are going to, yeah, we have currently sunsetted a small business program that we had for a couple of years where we were doing virtual assessments, but we are going to be creating a new program in the near future for these small and medium businesses, as well as we do have what we call our mid-biz team, where we can receive any calls or emails to better support any billing, metering, or energy projects that you may want to undertake. That team is also undergoing the marketing development revamp, and will be really poised to reach out to this region. And a great question, and I'm gonna call out, we don't necessarily have a slide with this. Who exactly would we reach out to follow up? I will call out that our energy advisors, and as we share slides in the recording here, we'll look to share the energy advisor's name and email and phone number. they can route any of your questions to the correct parties, whether it be our team for program incentives, whether it be our small and medium business teams for those supports. But they would be a great place to reach out to. Right, and we will ensure that we're going to add in the handouts for these slides. We're going to ensure that we add that contact information. There is a question calling out, are we going to be adding additional incentive programs to our website, such as the multifamily passive homes or other BPA programs City Light offers? Great question. All programs that we can offer will be on the website. So happy to answer offline on specific programs as we can't call out right now that will if we are going to include those programs or not. But yes, happy to follow up offline. No, good sets of questions. Appreciate the interest here. Looking to see if there's other questions. All right, not seeing that much more coming in. Katie, any last messages we want to call out if there are no other questions?
Yeah, let me talk for a few seconds. I know it's not easy to not be able to just raise your hand and ask your question if you have a question. So we'll pad the time a little bit to give you time to formulate your questions in the chat. Just wanted to point out that in the chat, I added a link to the commercial industrial rebates page on City Light's website. Added the energy advisors contact information. It's a good place to get started if you are getting started. Certainly, if you work with an EMA all the time, go ahead and contact them. But the energy advisors are the best place to start when you're getting started. And just for those of you that like to know things and go down rabbit holes, if you aren't aware of how BPA works with City Light and other utilities, I added a link to BPA so you can learn all about utility stuff. I did not go to school to become a utility person, but I have found these past, how long have I been in here? Almost 20 years in the utility industry, not here. Really interesting. So go down that rabbit hole, and you've got a couple more questions now. I did it.
Thank you, Katie. Question out, hey, how do we connect Trade Allies to the network and projects? We do not have a Trade Ally network yet. Just to clarify, we are designing a Trade Ally engagement program, and we will have one in the near future. So we don't have one as of yet, but continue engaging with us. We want to ensure as we design this program for Trade Allies, want to get your feedback, see what better can meet your needs and how we can work together to support your energy goals.
And I was just going to add real quick on that, Monica, do feel free to send Armando or Ted or Len or Lighting Design Lab or, oh, I don't have my email on here. Send an email and say that you're interested in the Trade Ally network, because it is just getting started. So any input that you have, it would be very valuable to us.
Good relevant question also on if there are new workbooks or updated workbooks for lighting or non-lighting projects. And again, don't have the info here, but if you Google the energy advisors for Seattle City Light, they will be a great one-stop shop to get all of these questions answered. And I'll take a page out of a couple of people's books here. We can have some good awkward silence as other questions get formed.
Do you have, Armando, I didn't see a slide with your guys' contact information. Do you want to put your email in the chat if people have questions for you guys? Or do you want them to go through Energy Advisors?
Yeah, I think the energy advisors would be great as they can route to the appropriate parties depending on the nature of the question. And did you put that one in the chat, that contact, that email?
I did.
Thank you.
Yes. Do you see that question?
Yes. When are you launching a Trade Ally network? Again, it's in development, so I can't give an estimated data. I couldn't hold by it. But again, appreciate knowing that there is good interest. We do want to have that two-way communication platforms, provide resources, get feedback. So working on it. Again, email in saying, hey, we'd be interested in participating. From time to time, we are collecting feedback through various sources. So if you express your interest, we'll make sure to reach back out.
Oh, I have a question, Armando.
Please.
Do you guys, and I apologize for my noisy coworkers. I know I'm a noisy coworker sometimes for them. So, does your team anticipate making changes in the new year to incentives? Is there going to be an update that maybe we should know about?
Not as of yet. We late in the first quarter of the year, we do want to plan an event to communicate, hey, here's the latest and greatest about our various different types of programs. Early stages in planning, but think sometime in March we want to do both in-person and virtual, call it like a town hall of our various program portfolios. And we'd want to ensure that yeah, we'll do a good amount of showcasing latest and greatest of our programs, and if we have any updates, that'll be a great time and place to be updated. Early planning stages, but sometime late Q1 next year, we'll have a program roundup town hall.
Excellent. And there goes some of my noisy coworkers. I think we can wrap up. There's just 10 minutes left of our allotted time, and questions have kind of died down. So, give people 10 more minutes back.
That sounds great.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, sister division Customer Energy Solutions, for coming and presenting on our platform. And like I mentioned at the beginning, there's just a little survey to fill out at the end to give us some feedback. And visit lightingdesignlab.com to see what our next webinars are going to be. And we definitely will put up a town hall notice if that town hall comes to fruition next year. So keep track of that. All right, thanks everybody. Have a good Thursday.
Thank you.